Alright, so after setting up our database, we're now going to create our models. And by the way, in here in the database path, you might have a space in your path and it might give you an error. So to fix that, just embed, like cover this in some quotations there or some inverted commas, and that way to work when there's space or not. So now we're going to go back to our terminal so we can create our model. We're going to start by creating our messages model. So here, just in the terminal, just type php artisan make model, and here type message with a capital M -M for migration. Alright, now that is created. Next, we're going to create a conversations model. So here type another command, php artisan make model. Here type conversation space -M. Click enter. Alright, so now if you go back to File Explorer here in your migrations, you see you have created two files, the messages and the migration. So let's first start by filling up the messages migration. So in the messages, we're first gonna reference a foreign ID, which is conversation, because every message will belong to a conversation. So here type table foreign ID conversation ID. Make it constrained since it's coming from the conversations table. Then there semicolon. Next, we're gonna get an unsigned big integer table. The unsigned big integer. This is going to be sender ID. Add a semicolon there. Again, table foreign. Here, let's get the same sender ID that we just named. Sender ID. References ID on which table? On users. Like we're gonna do the same for receiver ID. So just copy these two files, paste them down below here. Here, change this to receiver. Make sure you have the receiver word correct. Receiver ID. Then here to receiver ID. Alright, so everything is set now. Next, we're gonna set our boolean red. So table boolean. Here red. So here I'm going to check if the message is red or not. Let's make a default value for this 0 and also make it nullable, semicolon there. Next is a body table. Here make it a text body. Also make this nullable. Alright, and then also one more thing, we gotta add a type. So type table, make this a string, and then type nullable. Alright, so our messages is done. Well, it's ready for migration, but let's also just fill up our conversation so we can migrate at the same time everything. So in here for conversation, here let's type table unsigned big integer sender ID. Here type table, again unsigned big integer receiver ID. Next table, I'm gonna reference this to foreign sender ID references ID on users table. Alright, then just copy this just to save up time and then paste it in here. Just change this to receiver ID. Alright, then next add another column here, table, make this timestamp here, last time message. This is going to help us align our conversation according to the latest one, and also make this nullable at the semicolon there. Alright, so if we check our messages, it's all set, everything's correct. Now we can try to migrate. So come down to the bottom here on the terminal and run this php artisan migrate. Alright, so we have now successfully migrated all our tables, and so if you go back to your DB browser and then click open database and then click the same one that we just migrated to, click open, you see that we have all these tables that we just migrated. We have the conversations table here. It has this receiver ID, last time message, created that, updated that. We have the messages in here. We have conversation ID, sender, receiver. We have red, the body, the type. So we also have the users table in here. So we can keep this database open when we start sending our messages. It's going to help you see how the information is being saved to the database like that. So that's it for this video. See you in the next video. We are going to create our relationship.